welcome to InsideX presented by Parts Canada Season 2. I'm going to be your host, Kyle Thompson, joined always by my guy, Ryan Gauld. Ryan, good to have you here.
I am stoked to be here, Season 2. Obviously, we did some good things. We welcome back, and it's awesome. Brand new studio here. We're not doing the Zoom thing here, keeping our social distancing, of course, and the big thing I feel for me is I've got pants on, Kyle. It's been a long winter inside my office at home. It's great to get out of it and excited to talk about some Canadian moto and a lot of great things coming here in 21.
Yeah, big season, and we drug you out of the basement. We got you in studio, so I'm excited to have you here. And it's always better when you're in person. It's always the Zoom chats, they never work out that great. So it's good to be here and a lot in store. We're going to be racing here shortly. I know that a regional, like your ammo region and a lot of regions across the country are going to be racing. So
yeah, actually, just over the last few days, we started getting that good weather. So you're getting a little bit of a taste. Go for Dunes is opening up here shortly. So across the board, Canada, we're going to start getting on the dirt bikes and getting excited. And like I said, it's been a really long winter for a lot of us. Not a lot of us have been able to cross the border and get that little, Florida trip or South Carolina or whatever it is. So the excitement and anticipation for this year is even more than the past, just because of that structured little stuck in that we've been. And it's definitely exciting for sure. And yeah, the season is fast approaching.
Yeah, I know we got some cool segments this year as well. So it's we're going to get out of the studio a bunch. We're going to go to the track. And I know we got some.
I get to see you ride this year?
Possibly. We'll battle. Maybe we'll battle. We'll get those Cardo systems on. We'll talk to each other. But okay. I'm excited about that. We also got Roodz Garage. We're going to intro that later and see what he's been up to, because it's got some cool stuff with Yamaha and whatnot, and maybe a bike build in the works. So we'll be talking about that later. But yeah, this winter's been, it's been long, but at least we've had some Supercross to watch and some young Canadians going down there. Obviously, some unfortunate injuries with Jess Pettis. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but that's kind of kept us busy.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're all such passionate fans. That's kind of the good and bad part about the sport. You get so sort of drunk on it that when it stops, you're just like dying for it. Like, even myself at home, I'm sitting there and my wife is like, you got to get out of the house. Like, you need something to do. And I'm sure there's a gazillion others like that share that passion like I do. So once Supercross got going, it definitely kind of gets you enticed. And they're doing a great job under the craziness of the world. And we're about to get back into the craziness. Everything looks like it's kind of settling down a little bit, which is going to be great for us and, of course, the customer base across the thing. But it's been great. With all the negative that has come with it, it has been great for the industry as far as bike sales and people really looking to get attracted to the sport that you and I love so much. And coming into this year, the local scene, the grassroots, brand new people riding the P-dubs and the CRFs and all the good stuff coming. It's getting exciting for that for sure. And this is the kickoff for it with the show.
And talking about that point, about the bike sales getting better, we're going to have a cool segment throughout the season, Arma Rewind, which we go back to when the bikes were really booming, like 99 to 2000s. So, and obviously see you racing, so that's going to be fun.
That's the highlight. That's the highlight right there.
That's the highlight. But that's going to be cool, because I feel like that surge is coming again, and maybe it happened because of COVID and people wanting to do individual sports, but that's going to come back, and it's going to be cool to see what the past was and talk about how it could be in the future.
Yeah, 100%, and I think the reason why we're going to see this growth is the fact that we're all fighters in this thing. We kind of treat everybody that works within the industry treats it just like racing. They want to get better, want to be the best. And last year, your Ammos, your Waltons, your Gophers, and the Triple Crowns, we fought to have a series under the craziness. And you're sticking balls. There are a lot of volunteer people in those worlds. This is our livelihood. This pays our bills. And we went to bat and we were able to make it happen. And we're looking good in 21. And I think the people, these new customer base, they saw it. They saw the passion and the fight that we had. And it's exciting to see the newish people coming. A few of them are a little crazy to deal with. They're unsure of what's going on the way of the rules. But hey, you get on there, you email them back, you let them know. And it's awesome to see. It takes a little bit of time. But man, it's having that new vibe coming in. It's making it very exciting and very attractive for the sport.
And I couldn't agree more. And this sport is so great for that. It's a family aspect. And, we talk about this often. And it's like, you go to hockey, but you're all different age groups. So your brother's not playing the same tournament or the same game as you. But with motocross, you go there, you're all racing the same day. There's different classes, but it's a family aspect. You're going camping, and it's just a great vibe.
Hamburgers and hot dogs for everybody. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, so we're going to get into that. But one thing, notice the Triple Crowns series launched their schedule. And now we're trying to get that Western swing. Obviously, last year we had to be sticking to Ontario, trying to get that Western swing back in there.
Yeah, we're still really trying to hopefully pull that off. There's so many weird things between province to province. Everybody has their own sort of agenda and own sort of look at the guidelines and the way COVID is working. Everything seems to be opening up at this period in time, and we can hopefully make that happen because our Western base, it's such a strong base, such great riders like your Piccolos and Daniel Elmores and all these kids we just saw signing up with Sky Racing a few days ago. So we need to have those guys, and we want to go to those tracks to support those local regions. We just, fingers are crossed so we can make it happen.
Yeah, and we're going to dive into some more of those team adjustments later on, but it's exciting times. We're in the spring, and the riding's starting. The fresh bikes are coming out, fresh Yamahas that we're going to get riding. So we're going to get to the track, but right now we're in the studio, and we're going to do some cool stuff. But we're going to jump to a quick commercial, and we'll come back with that rewind segment.
I'm Jeremy McGrath, former pro supercross motocross rider, 7-time supercross champion. Came from a little town called Menifee, California, and was raised out in the country, and I rode dirt bikes. Being a former pro athlete, I'm still super active. I'm riding mountain bikes a ton, still riding motocross quite a lot, doing a variety of sports, chasing my kids around, they're doing sports, and the opportunity was presented to come on board with Arma and really take my own fitness to the next level. As being an older guy, like some of the, these kind of things these days are very important. And so supplements to me was something I wanted to look into, and the opportunity was right. If we can, broaden the outlook of what it looks like for Supercross, obviously I'm a dirt biker and we can help the world of Supercross, then I'm all in. So we're not gonna stop there. We're gonna branch out to many different sports and action adventure sports. If we can help people, we want to do it.
Last season was my best season ever by far. I won a lot of races, I won a championship, and it was also my first year using Arma. And one of the things I noticed was just my ability to string good days together. Like especially in the summertime in Florida where you're riding every day and the heat index is 108 degrees and you're doing 230s and going to the gym and bicycle and all that stuff. I think in the past I've been super inconsistent day to day. Yeah, I may have a good race here or a good day during the week there, but overall I think where I improved the most was my consistency in my recovery.
Welcome back here. We got the Arma Rewind Gadi, and before we get back into the days of Gadi, we're going to look back last year. I know the recaps last year, we talked about the 2019 season, but we're going to catch up on the 2020, just talk about some of the riders before we go back to the 90s and the 2000s. But last year, obviously we're kind of in that bubble, the Ontario bubble, and an Ontario rider, he rose to the occasion. Dylan Wright was dominant last year.
Yeah, the Honda Canada GDR Fox rider there. He filled that role of the 6-time champion, Colin Fasciotti, overboard, I would say. He kind of over-delivered. Coming into the season, it was almost like, okay, Phil Nicoletti's got this thing. Who's going to beat him? There's just no way Dylan could hang with the experience and the toughness. And 1-1-1 right out of the gate at Gopher Dunes. I guess that one maybe is a bit of a given home track, but it's not like they pound motos there all the time. I don't know if you've been there in the middle of the summer. It's not that much fun when it's not watered and stuff. But very impressive jump right from the 250 to the 450, just like you do when you're trying to hire a guy like that. He paid off in spades, and it was impressive to watch all year long, man. He was unbelievable and miles ahead of everybody. Only Phil was really able to kind of sort of touch him, and then we lost Phil late in the series there. But man, it was quite the transition. A lot of people rivaled it to when Dusty Klatt took down JSR back in 2006.
I know, and I remember seeing a video on our social about Dusty Klatt that same year. Number 9, it was weird. It was like
very eerie.
Very eerie. But and it's crazy to see like the GDR squad almost kind of gave up on Dylan, but man, they kept the course and they end up getting paid off.
Well, there's a point he wasn't going to get hired after that 2018 year. They were very questioning, and then. Diggs, it's the tough Canadian thing. It's all about business, but they couldn't just say no, and luckily they didn't because it's paid off.
And talking about Phil Nicoletti and Matt Gerke kind of bundled those guys in a similar situation where Matt came off an injury and Phil just didn't race since the year before when he won the Triple Crown. I feel like those two coming in were behind the 8 ball, and Dylan took advantage of that early and went on. So, Phil Nicoletti, obviously, we'd love to see him finish out the series last year. Hurt his hand with that incident, so...
It was tough for those guys, too, with the quarantine thing, right? They had to be here basically 3 weeks before round 1, living in the trailers and kind of adapting to where they could ride and practice tracks. They had to kind of get out of their element, if you will. Like, for years, they had been flying home and just sticking to that program. And then, for Phil and Matt Gerke, the program is very important, especially at that older age. You got to stick to what is going on. So I would say they were a little under the radar. And then, of course, I don't think they thought that Dylan was going to be quite as good as he was.
Exactly.
From what you know of Dylan, he's got those explosive moments where he just all of a sudden it's boom out of the picture kind of thing. So. A little unprepared, and he took the swing like that. I mean, they obviously had great results, and Matt had a great end of his career year, which is very cool to see to have it in our home country. But Dylan just outshined them, but those guys, yeah, like you said, you can kind of put them in both the same path. They had a very similar national series, as it were, and Matt finishing second at the end of it all. But crazy loss with the Phil, but it was cool to see Matt kind of get better and better. I think he wanted more rounds. Unfortunately, we couldn't give it to him.
Exactly it. And another guy that we want to talk about is Sean Moffenbauer, the big number 3 out there. He got better and better as it went on too. I think he was hoping for a longer series. Obviously, we jammed those motos together, made 3 motos to get a lot of motos in, but it was just one of those things. And Sean now signing with the MX101 squad there, so that he's back to his old stomping grounds where he won his first title. Yeah,
and he came on so strong at the end of the year there. It was kind of great to see. And Sean's one of those guys that if you actually be cool with these Armor Rewinds, you'll probably see him back in the day. Like, Sean was a full-blown beginner. Like, literally scary on the track. Like, wow, what's going on out here? And then the amount of work in the storyline, I like to bust his chops about that kind of thing. Like I always said, like, oh, in your first year's pro, you should have had red numbers on your bike, kind of thing. But he progressed in just that great story of hard work pays off. And ranked number 3, winning championships. And now back with the MX101 for 2021. It's a great story, and it was the way that he ended, not necessarily in the Supercross portion, but the outdoor. You got to think that that's got to be coming in when we start getting around 1.
I agree. He's not the strong point in the indoors, although he's won an arena cross title. But going back now to the 250 class, we've seen Jess Pettis dominate, much like Dylan Wright, and now he's going to make that jump to the 450 class. So he's going to try to bring that dominance to the big bikes. Yeah,
that's going to be interesting. And of course, we know he got hurt this winter, so he's on the mend right now, but he should be good to go right when a series kicks underway. So he's going to be good. Whether or not he can do what Dylan did, I don't know. That big bike is such a big change, and Dylan's a little taller, a little stronger, maybe since, but it'll be interesting to see how it works out for Pettis. And then, behind him, you had the Canella and Ward and Marshall Welton. Like, it was up for grabs, that second spot there. And then at the end of it there, Canella came on fire. It was such a great ending to the series. Of course, it's like a good book at the end of it. You just want more.
Yeah,
you just constantly want more, right, when you're reading there. And that's exactly how the 250 series was. Pettis, clear days ahead. And then you got the Piccolo in the mix at the end there. Casey Keast, who we're going to see in Supercross here soon. He hits the podium. So the 250 class is always that, kind of throw everything up in the air. But Pettis, he was the dominant force.
And we know that Welton and Pettis both moving up. So that kind of opens the door for, you got to think that Tanner Ward and Marco Canella are going to fill those shoes. It's a go time for both those guys.
Yeah, and we're going to be talking about the teams. Darian Sinai is now filling in that Welton spot on the Monster team. And he's been up here before. That kid has got some speed. He's done the GP. So, but yeah, Canella, Ward, right now you got to figure them are the guys that could be fighting for this title for sure. And kind of cool story about it, right? They've come up through the intermediate ranks, and then they kind of had a bit up and down, and then last year real strong, and then now these guys are maybe 1A and 1B for this title fight.
Exactly, and it's exciting times, especially if you lived in Ontario and seen that from the 50s all the way up. It's going to be cool. One guy that we didn't mention at 450 class, Tyler Medaglia, he's kind of doing a different thing now. We're going to touch on that later, but
he's burying bikes in Florida.
He's in that GNCC route, and just he wants to do stuff that he's always kind of wanted to do, and he's been tied to the moto scene, the Triple Crown Series or the CMRC Series. So now he's doing stuff he wants to do.
Yeah, it's kind of cool that a career like that, it kind of comes full circle, and now he's kind of being able to do what he wants. And I always bust his chops by saying Heidi lets him have the credit card so he can go have fun, and Heidi pays all the bills, and Tyler can still live his regular fun life. But it'll be interesting to see where the year goes. Right now, the GNC thing hasn't gone so well, but he's got aspirations and goals and some other cool stuff this year, and he's just a great guy to follow. So.
Yeah, and before we go to break there, one other rider we didn't talk about, the Supercross winner, Cole Thompson, my brother. He's going to be in that 450 class. He's going to be hungry for MX titles.
You almost forget your brother, man.
No, he's easy to forget.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, you can never count out Cole. He's a racer's racer. When the gate drops, he's always in the mix, and there's no doubt in my mind, I'm sure you guys know, he wants that MX title. Yep. He wants that one bad. The Supercross stuff comes easy to him, but that MX title is something that he's got to get off his shoulder, off his back, and maybe 21's the year. And that's it for the ARMA Rewind this week. We're going to get dipped back into the Gadi era next week and the weeks to come, and kind of go through the whole Canadian scene, maybe get back into some Supercross back in the day. Who knows what we're going to get into here, but we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to InsideX Social Media Check-In, brought to you by KTM. And Gadi, we're going to dive into some social media. Lots of good stuff out there. This is a great era because you can always see what's going on. And you know I'm a big social media guy. Love it. The first one we're going to bring up is some ice riding on electric bikes. And these new electric bikes, I know your kid's getting into it. They're cool. Yeah, I just bought some for my two boys. you know, I've been born on gas, but I'm like, I'm going to dive in. My kids aren't that serious about it. This is a super fun product right there, and you can tell by the boys out there on the ice right there.
Yeah.
It's cool to see.
It's awesome to see, and that's a Fly By You motorsport there. And now, talking about that, that's Yannick Boucher's mechanic, I believe, and Yannick Boucher, there's a good photo of him riding his snow bike. Those guys trying to get their series going.
Yeah, under the COVID guidelines, they're trying to go here very shortly, so cross our fingers for them, because they need to go racing. They've probably been even crazier than we are going this winter.
Yeah, especially doing the whole setup for the bike. It's a tough go, but unfortunate event for this guy, though. Jess Pettis started out, looked like he was going to go good. Time qualifying, re-injured his knee.
Just burn the flag again. I'm like, oh my God, another Canadian hurt down there. So much hope for him too, right? He was kind of, last one we talked about, Cole Thompson was the one that was kind of the big hype down there years ago with Jess Pettis. Yeah, super bummer.
Yeah, Gilliam St. Cyr, another guy that East Coast or West Coast, whatever you want to call it, down there, and he ended up getting hurt. He got through the series, ended up getting hurt, but
he kept getting better.
Yeah,
you could see the results kept getting better. So
and a guy that we're just starting to watch, Casey Keese down there. That's pretty cool.
Opening round coming up. Good luck to him. We hope that he can get himself in the night show and just gain that experience. I think that's what he's doing.
And then the last guy we're going to bring up, we talked about him early in the show, Tyler Medaglia, switching brand. He's actually on KTM, which is brought to you by KTM, and he's doing the GNCC.
Drinking Florida water like he owns it.
So yeah, make sure you follow along each week. InsideX on Fox, that's the hashtag. And we're actually going to step outside the studio for this next segment. We're going to go to Roodz Garage, so stay tuned. How's it going, guys? Exciting day here, InsideX. We just got a fresh Yamaha here, and we're at Roodz Garage. We're gonna take it to him. He's gonna recreate this beautiful Yamaha into the Parts Canada Dream Bike. I know Roodz loves the two-stroke, so we're gonna bring it old school here, and he's got something up his sleeve, so I'm gonna let him tell you guys what we're doing here, but I gotta bring it to him.
Dream bike, let's go. Paul Rudy's been riding motocross for 30 years. So got out of racing a little bit, got out of riding for a little bit, but then got back into it and got more into working on bikes, restoring old bikes, got that nostalgic feel. I get a little misty-eyed for the 90s, those bikes. So I'll take you for a tour around the shop. So back when I had that 87 DR100 and we were riding in a field, this guy came out and started talking to me and said his brother was a mechanic for a pro team, and he came out and he gave me this jersey that Ricky Johnson wore, and that's where I got that's what I wanted to do, an 86 250 restore. So we talked about the Johnson jersey. I'm a big Ricky Johnson fan, and that's what inspired me to do the 86 250. It's not a 100% build, it's 99%, but I like to ride this bike. Did the whole thing top to bottom, motor's completely done. So this is a 97 CR500. If you know bikes, you know what a 500 is all about. If you've had the privilege of riding one, you really know what it's all about. These things are beasts. This is my current project. This is a 91 CR250. Didn't go with the OEM look on this one. I wanted to go more with a 90s look, and the seat inspired the whole thing. I found this seat and I found these old levers, and just kind of painting and doing things along the way to match that era, all 90s. 04 CR125, Long story with this bike, but this was a good experience for me. This bike, I bought this bike and tore it right down to nothing. Absolutely every single piece of this bike I went through, I redid. If it's not new, it's been fully inspected and redone. This is a cool bike for me. I know 04 CRs isn't the 125 CR that everybody wants, but this bike, and I learned a lot with this bike. This bike was cool to build. So we got some jerseys here, good decoration for the shop, big eBay shopper with Thor Velocity, a lot of 90s stuff, 1-800-COLLECT team, signed by some of the guys, Larry Ward, Scott Sheik, Damon Huffman signatures. I didn't get those signed, but I bought the jersey off somebody and they had those signed. All these jerseys, I mean Fox with the barbed wire, all the old Axo stuff. It's all super 90s, early 90s when the gear was just, it was just there. The 90s was it.
Well, Roodz, got a blank canvas here. Nice fresh Yamaha 250 two-stroke. And you know what? We got Parts Canada, Royal Distributing help us out. What do you want to do with this blank canvas?
I want to do everything to this bike. Parts Canada carries some awesome parts from some awesome manufacturers. We're going to take this bike back 30 years to 1991 when Bradshaw was king and everybody loved their two-strokes because that's all there was.
Yeah, I like that. I'm a big fan of that. So you're thinking white plastic. I think it was a magenta color, if I can recall. And we got, I mean, the blue rims. We're gonna have to do everything blue. We're gonna have to do white or a black or something.
Yeah, we're gonna strip this bike right down cosmetically. All the plastic's gone, fuel tank's gone. We're gonna go all white on this thing. We're gonna take the motor, we're gonna ceramic coat some parts to match the GYTR parts. We're gonna take the wheels off. We're gonna put some A60 XL wheels on this thing. We're gonna lace those bad boys up, run some Dunlop tires on there. We're gonna go with the Works Edition pipe from FMF. And we are going to do everything with this bike that we possibly can. First things first, when you're breaking down a bike, organization is key. You want to make sure everything you're taking out of the bike goes back where it came from. Bolts are different lengths, bolts are different styles. And as soon as you break down a bike and you have hundreds of bolts laying in a pile, you will not know where they go. I promise you, I've made the mistake. Magnetic tray. Simple, easy, totes, bins, labeling, everything, organization, first and foremost. So we're lucky enough to have a brand new machine to work on here and rip down to nothing. Everything's 10 out of 10. This bike is good to go, but not everybody can get a brand new machine and you're buying an old machine, and it's important to check over everything 100%. You want to go over your entire bike. A lot of the stuff, there's a lot of abuse. A lot of wear and tear, a lot of neglect, and these bikes just, over time, people just don't take care of them. You got a brand new bike, we're good with this. Everything's brand new, everything's tight, everything's fresh, everything's good. You buy your old bike, you're definitely gonna wanna go over it. And you're gonna wanna check everything out and make sure it's safe to ride. Safety's key. We're gonna finish tearing this Yamaha down. Check back in later. Roodz Garage signing off. Yep.
Welcome back to InsideX here. I have the guy, the man himself, the two-stroke guru, Paul Roodz Garage. Roodz, great to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
So anyways, talking to you in the garage, seeing that you have all this old nostalgic stuff, and you talked about your DR80, was it?
100.
DR100, and that's what it all got started.
That's how it got started. Wanted a bike for years and bugged my parents, hounded them. There was a whole safety thing. Mom didn't want, she wasn't having it. And one day Dad just rolled up in the truck and unloaded this bike. And, DR100 had the headlight, the tail light, metal gas tank. Probably weighed as much as a 450 does today. But at the time, that was a moment. Something you'll never forget, that first bike feeling.
Yeah, and going back to those dates, you think about a DR100 and you're just like, man, they don't have those kind of bikes nowadays. Like even the starter bikes that kids have, they're just like right out of the box. Like, man, I could pretty much race this. Like they have a CRF or even electric bikes that these kids are getting. So that was like, man, back then that thing was very little suspension and slow.
Oh, super slow, but fast for me. First ride, we lived in the suburbs, and the first ride out, just let the clutch go and looped her right out. I have no idea how I looped that bike out. They're so underpowered, but she went right over backwards. I went right on my backside, and I was hooked from then.
Yeah, so we know that you're doing this project bike, and we're going back to a 91, which is 30 years for this YZ, which is going to be cool. I like that idea that you came up with. And all the parts that you're going to put into it, thanks to Parts Canada, Royal Distributing, all the other companies that we're going to, touch on along the way. But going back, and I know that we grew up together, we met each other in high school, and like a Pontiac Supercross was our go-to, and that's kind of what got the bug going for, the nostalgists of the 90s. And just talk about like going to Pontiac Supercross back in the day.
Oh man, I wish I could go back there right now. All those old bikes, all the old cube vans and stuff, man, that'd be something. But yeah, it was going there as a kid and seeing all that stuff, especially first time, especially when you're just a kid that doesn't come from a motocross family. You just ride wherever you can. You get kicked out of these places, and then to go to someplace like the Superdome or the Silverdome, and see these bikes and these riders and the track is just. It was unbelievable.
The
yeah,
smell.
Every
smell walking
year,
into that thing.
Every April we went, and we never missed it. And dome got torn down, and yeah, I know, but
bittersweet.
It is what it is.
But going to those races and stuff like that. Obviously, we went to a lot together, and it's that whole nostalgic of you, and you go to your shop and you see all this stuff on the wall and all these bikes you redid, and I know that we talk a lot about this, not just in the Roodz Garage, but in general. Is how hard it is to build these bikes, and you speak about it a lot. It's like finding parts for these old bikes is a challenge.
That's the hardest part, sourcing the parts and going back to the OEM numbers and trying to find these parts. Usually 9 times out of 10, especially when you get into the 80s bikes, you're going to your eBay and you're trying to find secondhand parts, and you're not even sure if they're going to be as good as the parts that you have. So there's a lot of finishing of old parts and trying to make them new again. It's work.
Yeah, it's a lot of fabbing up stuff and just repolishing things and painting. And,
hours.
Lots of stuff
countless.
like that. So going to a 2021 model like this Yamaha and being part of the Blue Crew this year with the whole InsideX is pretty cool because you can find all these parts and you're like, this site is out of stock. Oh, no worry, they're getting stock in next week. So it's nice like that.
It's good. It's fun. It's already been fun, and we're just getting into it. To be able to, like you said, take apart that new bike and just pull brand new parts off the bike, and it's just with a click of a button, just go to Parts Canada, Royal Distributing, and you just get these parts and just put them on the bike. It's so easy, and just top shelf parts from top shelf manufacturers. This is a lot of fun. Yeah,
some big companies, as well as we're gonna dip into the local business. I know that you're good buddies with Andrew Kelch, who does the painting. He's Lambton Dipping and Coating, so he's gonna take care of some parts and paint some stuff up to make it a little special.
Yeah, this guy has been doing paint for me for a few years now, and there's not a lot of people in the business doing the Cerakote ceramic, and this stuff is hard as nails. This stuff takes heat, and it is just a flawless factory finish this guy does, so this bike is going to look good.
Yeah, so I know going forward, we got the bike tore down today. Now we're going to go, you probably want to get that suspension into Steve, so I'm guessing that's what we're going to do next.
Yep, we'll head over to Steve's place, and he is the guy. He's been into it. He's a rider. He's a racer. And he knows exactly what we're going to need to do to this bike.
Yeah, so do that, and then it slowly starts getting pieced back together with some parts from Parts Canada, obviously Royal, And got to get that rolling chassis first before we get that motor in. And I mean, as soon as we start getting that, it's going to come together.
Yep. As soon as we get that suspension back and we get those wheels put on there, we'll be able to really get this thing looking good.
Yep. So bringing back the 1991 replica, back when you and I fell in love with this sport. So this is it's kind of bittersweet too. Like, you know what I mean? Like we missed those 90 days when it was simple and just riding, but we're going to try to bring it back and do this all over again. And I'm excited to get this thing all together. We got 16 episodes of InsideX, and it's going to come together slowly. Each week we're going to put more parts into it and make this thing beautiful.
Looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's going to be a great time. And that's all the time we have for Roodz Garage today. Tune in next week and we'll visit his garage again and get that suspension over to Steve. Welcome back to InsideX. Typically, I get an interview of a pro rider, but sometimes an ex-pro rider, but we got this guy, an ex-pro rider, broadcast guy, Gadi. Let's deep dive into your career and how you got here and broadcasting, all this good stuff. Start right from the top. What was your first bike you got? I'm guessing it was a Yamaha.
It was a Zinger. I feel like I should get into that therapeutic pose like this and lay down and you can talk to me with all this kind of stuff. But yeah, actually it was a P-dub back then, but it was called a Zinger. Came with a number 1 on the plate, and right then and there, my mom said I was the best, and that's I started right from then, that P-dub. And that was kind of where I got the taste. My cousin was the one that was actually the racer at the time, and my dad got that bike. I wasn't racing. We didn't have a class in Canada like we do now, like the type class and stuff. And so there was no racing going on, and then I just we had a yard and a farm and rode a little bit, and it never really turned anything. That was around 5 years old, and then about 8 is when my old man showed up with a Honda 1984 Honda CR60.
Oh yeah.
And after that, I started racing. And again, we didn't have a class in Canada, so I actually headed over to Michigan, not far from where we are now, from the office here, and started racing Baja and Iron Mustangs, and that's where I got the taste.
They didn't have a 60 class back in the early 90s?
No, so actually, well, this is a late 80s.
Oh,
about
late 80s.
88, 87. No, it was just the 80A and 80B.
Wow.
So when I actually went to a local race here in Canada or in Ontario, I had to race with those guys. For names that some may know, Steve Bolyovsky's and Philippek's dad, actually, who Max Philippek
No
now
kidding.
races his dad. Guys like that, they were in the 80s, and it was literally like me, and then just, getting lapped. And I was the only guy out there, and it was funny. You think doing that, you get a little deterred from getting smoked and going speed so fast, but I stuck with it. I liked it, and yeah, it's been something that's been a part of it for like 38 years now.
Yeah, that's the 60. I actually had the same 60. Me and my brothers rode that 84 60. We were riding in the 90s. We were a little archaic then, but going from there, you started progressing, and like I just briefly know by talking to you, it's like into the 85s, and you started battling with guys like Marco Dubé. You come up with those guys and did some nationals that back then.
Yeah, to kind of just fast forward through the amateur years, was the CMA was the dominant sanctioning body, and it was kind of cool back then. The races actually went to a different province every year to become our sort of like national champion. Yeah. So I went to BC. I won a 60 championship in 1991, and then in 92 it was in Latuque, Quebec, where Marco Dubé actually won the championship that year. And actually, no, sorry, he didn't win it. We won a moto that year, and I won a moto. And we ended up both losing it. But anyway, racing him. Yep. And then 93, we went to Melita, Manitoba. And I was a factory Yamaha kid. It was the first year that Yamaha came out with the 93 YZ80. It was like Yamaha was breaking into the mini bike classes. And I was sponsored by Machine Racing. And I was going to just dominate. I went out there, and this guy named Jackson Twa, bars on the tank, goggles on his thing like this, smokes us. And I think I went 3-1, and he went 1-2 or something like that. And he ended up winning the championship. And it was this somber moment. I'm like, oh man, maybe I don't have what it takes. And then that was one of the first initial years of the Transcan. I went back there and I ended up winning the 80 class and the 125 junior class against Matt Lee, who was Brett Lee's brother, the owner of Transcan now. And then that was basically the amateur career. And then intermediate, Dubé beat me in every single moto. And that was right around there is when I didn't start to like French people. But I've grown to love them now.
So going into that, and I know my first experience at Walton, 96, and I often talk about the first time I seen Ryan Gauld, and you were face down in Walton dirt there after getting a hole shot in the 125 class.
Yeah, the show was actually on TSN that year, and whole shot of the first moto from way on the outside. I was starting there as an amateur and stuff like that, so I felt like I had something on my sleeve. And into the turn, hit the bridge, over the bars, and then just fully turtled Nick Way over my bike, and Dubé around me and all this kind of stuff. And it became kind of a famous intro for our television show for years. And actually, it's funny, anytime I ever bump into Nick Way, he's like, I remember that moment like it was yesterday, and have a laugh about it. So that was a cool year. That was the first sort of introduction of a big pro event back then, and it was I embarrassed the heck out of myself. It was great.
And then we got to know each other a bit more when my older brother started riding pro against you in 99, 2000. And one thing I noticed, and you haven't changed to this day, is I feel like you're all about the fun aspects. You don't want to put the actual like hard work in. You just rode off your talent, which is, got you 100%. Far, got you here, and you're doing so much good things with it. But that's the vibe I got from you, and you carried on to this day.
Yeah, I've always taken the more fun route of everything. More of a laughable kind of guy. I found going to the bars and chasing the women was a lot more funner than trying to make money on the weekends. I could do both decently, but I was never, your Blair Morgans or JSRs that I was, the guys that I had to kind of grow up against who were dominant was Marco Dubé. And machine racing, John Nelson, the man that I rode for, who was my sort of mentor, he was so frustrated all the time because of how good I was on the bike, but I just I hated doing anything workload. I'm like, I don't need to do that. I'm going to beat this guy just on sheer talent. And, coming to races at 4 a.m. in the morning or whatever it was and chasing skirts and getting myself in a lot of trouble. And then I'd have a great day and then be like, how the heck did he do that? And then the next weekend, though, I'd try to do the same thing and I'd be like 15th or 18th. And I was a factory Yamaha guy. So it was a big up and down thing, but yeah, I've always liked the fun over the work. I work hard now, and sometimes it's funny, one of those things. Like I wish I knew now. I don't know, or put it back to then. That saying, but I got a lot of great stories and memories from it. Some that probably can't be shared here on InsideX, but good times nonetheless.
Yeah, and I know training with Doug DeHaan. He was such a good rider back then. He did some Supercross in the States, and he was so regimented. And then you see you, the party style. It was just awesome to see that you were that skilled to race with him and battle with him for wins and stuff like that. But you had a totally different route, that's your style.
And that's kind of what led me into the broadcast side of things. So back in 2002, I was real good friends with Mark Stallerbras, the former runner of our series, and he my personality just always boomed. And he's like, what do you think about this? And I'm like, no problem. So I became one of the track crew guys. I was pounding stakes and putting up banners and stuff like that, living a horrible life. I hated living on the road. So dirty, so grungy, but still trying to be the guy at the bar or going and chasing girls. And then on Sunday, I'd have to get all dressed up and grab the mic and wearing the mechanic's gloves and the hat. And then, go through the whip section, this, that. And then everybody loved it. And then since that point, I've just kind of grown into the TV personality for it. And I'm super fortunate of what Mark did and how working for Jet works now, because I love it. I love being behind the camera. I love talking about the racing and sharing my passion through it. And I think it shows and people get a kick out of it because I try to be entertaining and have fun with it, just like my regular personality.
Yeah, and I got to say, one thing that you bring to the table that a lot of people, like even myself, is your memory for the sport. I know that we're going to get into some rewinds here, and just your memories and your stories is huge, and that's what brings that personality into the broadcast world. And I don't know where you got the memory from, but man, we appreciate it here.
Outside this room, completely useless information. Inside here, it's going to be good for the Armor Rewind, because I was just watching some old stuff. I'm like, I remember that. And yeah, it's I think it's one of those things. You find what you're passionate about, and then I remember everything. It's just something I enjoy doing, and I love it like the majority of us. But for some reason, I can't forget that stuff. I don't know why.
And the broadcast world brought you to some big things. You did some arena cross, and I remember the arena cross so vividly because you would do the helmet cam and talk about it. And I'm like, if anybody's rode arena cross back then, the whoops were nasty, the triples were huge, and you're just like, you're doing this track, and I'm sure you had a late night before, but you're still busting these jumps.
There was a few of them that got pretty late and pretty interesting the next day, but the very first one was pretty funny because Todd Gendro, who still works with Feld, he was the guy. They hired me over the phone, basically, right? We didn't have a Zoom meeting or anything like that. And they're like, yeah, what do you think? And I set up a tape, and I got down there. It was Des Moines, Iowa, in 2000, and I think it was 2004 winter, because it was about 2005 to switch, because remember they started before Christmas back then. And they're like, can you do a helmet cam? I'm like, yeah, sure, I can ride, no problem. And I get on Tommy Hoffmaster's Motor World Suzuki, and I could hear them they're talking to me in the ear, and the general's like, do we got liability on this guy? I'm like, what's going on? Like, what's going to happen here? And I went out, did a couple laps, and then did the jumps, and everything worked out. And then I had I think it was there 5 years I did that, and it was super fun. Got to travel all over, got to meet a couple people, got to be right in the Darcy Lange era of the Canadian dominance of arena cross, and it was cool. I met a lot of great people and had a lot of fun. I wish that was still part of it. There was kind of a vibe that I was going to get moving up the ladder there, but it was kind of funny. The living outside of the U.S. is sort of what hurt me, just the traveling, and it was a lot of extra cost for them to get me down there.
Yeah, 100%. We see that with our riders coming up here trying to get over the border and whatnot, always difficult. But what size of camera were you using? I know GoPros are about like this big. And was it a big?
Weighed about 23 pounds the first one we did, so it was funny. The first couple times you do it, my head would kind of lean down, and I'm trying to hold it up there. I had to have some pretty good neck muscles, but as the progression made, it got easier and easier. But yeah, and as I got to know the riders, they got a kick out of it because they would obviously see me the night before, being myself, being entertainment, and then they'd be there early to practice to watch me. And I had a couple of doozies there where I threw it away in the whoops and I crashed. Actually, one I broke the camera right off my helmet, and I'm laying in the whoops. Do you need a medic? I'm like, no, just give me a minute. I'm good. They strap me back up and go do it again. So, always about entertainment when the camera's on, and trying to make it fun and trying to sell what I see the sport is, and it's family, fun, and just enjoying something that's just a great time.
And that's something you've been used to, and I know back when you were still racing pro and being competitive, being on the podium and stuff like that, and then you just run it and throw like a pit shirt on, and you'd still have your gear at the bottom and doing interviews.
The gloves.
Hey, I just raced you, but how'd that moto go?
Yeah, that was always fun sometimes, especially if I would beat the guys. I would like, it kind of obviously poked the bear. That's another gift I have, kind of turning the toughness in there and stuff like that, but just like the guys that let me have that ability, it's brought me to a great career and keep me in something that you love. I'm very fortunate. Not a lot of people can do what they love, and I'm one of those guys.
Yeah, no, we're blessed to have you here with your memory and your energy and all the good times. And it's gonna be a good season. I can't wait to get back to the Triple Crown racing where we're calling some shots. I know that we got some other stuff coming on the table. We got the Walton, they're gonna be televised or on Flow Sport. The Amateur Opens and a bunch of stuff that we're going to, obviously oversee and talk about, and it's going to be good. So it's good to get a little background check on you before we get going again this year.
My story's got to be told. It's got to be told.
And we only touched on it, but that's all the time we have here. We'll get into some more of that once the Triple Crown comes around, but we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be back with some more Inside X. Welcome back to Inside X and episode 1 in the books. We got 16 episodes throughout the year, and we're going to cover a lot of racing. Maybe get some flat track in there, some super bike and stuff like that. Just mix it up, keep people guessing.
Might as well. Parts Canada dives deep into every motorsport across Canada, so we got to touch on that kind of stuff last year. We talked to like Ben Leclerc's out there and all kinds of fun stuff. And there's a great majority of motorsports happening all across the country. We got to touch base with them. Yeah,
and one thing I would be hard-pressed not to bring up is this road to Walton. I know there's some of the key people in our sport, the Kevin Tylers, the Brett Lees, the Chris Pomeroys, Ryan Cald. You're in this little battle. Is it end at Walton that you guys are going to all battle in 40+?
I don't actually know if there's an end game to this thing, to be honest with you. It was kind of something that Brett came up with to motivate us all. Hashtag Road to Walton if you're following online. It's been pretty fun, of course. Again, I'm the entertaining guy of it all. KT, Kevin Tyler, he's shooting pictures of him muscles up and training, and I'm sending out pictures of me drinking a whiskey and eating a bag of chips or something like that just for fun. So, but the goal is to basically just kind of create some hype between some friends and talk some smack a little bit and get us all excited about going to the biggest race in Canada. And I don't think Diggs, Derek Schuster from Gopher, I don't think he's planning a race. And I don't think Brett's planning a race either, but hey, you never know.
No, it's exciting, and we know that Walton is like the mecca for us in the motor world, and I got to be your mechanic again. I know you're going to be racing. You're going to be hunting down that #1 plate. I got to get that role.
That could be a thing. That kind of sounds too serious.
Nah, man.
I don't like serious, man.
Oh, we don't need to be serious. We can have a couple friendly pops at night, and then we go out and race and win motos. So.
I'm in. Okay, I'll get my bike over to you soon. You and Roodz can fix her up in the garage and get it dialed.
Get that blue crew dialed in. But and that's great to have Yamaha on board this year. It's going to be cool to see what Roodz creates there, as well as seeing you behind the scenes racing. We'll get those Cardo systems on. I can be your mechanic, and we'll talk through the moto.
I can't even wait to see some of the stuff you can come up with yelling at me in the ear. I'm excited about that. I think that's going to be an entertaining segment.
Yeah, it's going to be good. And just getting to the track and riding these bikes and making it feel normal again throughout this pandemic. But excited to be here for season 2 of Inside X on Fox, and we're pumped to be here.
Yeah, I'm happy to be a part of it. We did a banger job and a tough time last year with basically the Zoom meetings and calls handling it. Now we're in the studio and looking up, and 2021 is upon us, and we're going racing, Cal. It's all so close to being there. The sun is shining. It's ready to go.
Yeah, so anybody that's looking to get their membership for regions, it's all up on mrc.com. That's for the ammo region as well as all the way across the board. So get those memberships. We're going racing soon. I know April 24th, 25th is going to be the first race for that region, southwestern Ontario. So that's it for episode 1 of Inside X. Join us next week. It's going to be Wednesday at 8 p.m. and lots more stuff coming your way.